We start off our games with one ship, being that flagship. We can't survive with just the one. We have to keep building more. But how do you do this? And how can you continue to do this? And what's necessary to put into this? I've said this one too many times, but nevertheless, it's important. Welcome back, everybody, to another one of the Anno 117 guides. I hope you all are doing well today. Do know that I do stream this game on Twitch. I would love to see you guys there. The link is in the description if you'd like to. The schedule is on the Discord. And by all means, if you are new here, please feel free to drop on by, see if you like it. But again, you're here for the guide first, and then you can make your decision later. So, when starting off with ships, there's a couple things to really take into account. If you played Anno 1800 before, you will know that they just had a flat maintenance cost. So let's say 100 or 200, depending on what you were using, right? Potentially even more, up to 600. Here, it's a little bit different. Not only are you paying a maintenance cost for your ships, you're also using your island workforce in order to power these ships. So the larger they are, the more workforce is necessary to go in there. But another thing that they added in with Anno 117 is the ability to have modules for your ships. So that means you can customize them however you so choose. Before I take a look-see at all this stuff that I have built over here, I also want to mention that I did expand our settlement a little bit since the previous video that you guys saw. And now we have a little bit over here. And now we have a nice little spot starting around our villa area, which is going to continue to expand naturally over time. And again, because I don't like to build on grid patterns, I like to build it with a natural geography, so I decided to make this a little bit of a curved side with regards to my buildings, etc. Also, just to go with the whole aqueducts thing once more, the duct irrigation is in play now, so that means we are consuming a lot more of our water at the moment. But the flip side is that our farm fields over here with our hemp farms and our oat farms are benefiting from the aqueduct itself, so we are like completely tapped out, which is fantastic. So, getting on to the ships. Well, how do you start this? First thing you want to do, you're going to go over here to build mode or go press B and hit the construction right over here, and then you will see this picture with an anchor. You go ahead and click on this, and this little tab will expand over time as you continue to research things, but let me go through each one of these little options for you. The first one is the shipyard, in which it is this massive little, or massive and little in one statement. Wow. Massive building right over here. This is what your shipyard is. That is where the ships are going to be built. This one is a depot slot. This increases your island storage capacity. We can go ahead and put it down here. I think it looks kind of cool. Alternatively, you can flip it like this to make it look nice, but I'm going to do this one for now if it wants to work. There we go. So our island storage capacity has increased a little bit. Do note this also does take up workforce. The next two buildings over here and or chains are necessary components in order to build your ships, being the ropes chain and the sails. If you played Anno 1800 before this one, you will note that the sail makers are significantly slower than the ones that were in 1800. Over there, if I remember correctly, it was a legit 1-to-1 ratio. So one sheep farm per one sail maker, and they were in the worker tier, which in respect is kind of the same here because the plebeians are the same tier level as the workers from 1800. But this here is at a minute 30. On the flip side, the rope maker requires you to have a hemp farm and then the rope maker building itself. So this is the rope maker building, and this one is the sail maker. And the rope maker is going to be even slower at a crisp 2 minutes. Isn't that fantastic? So shipbuilding is going to take a little bit. If you're planning on having a whole bunch of ships, I will tell you as well, and I know I mentioned him many times, but Neptune does help you out if you feel like you want to be a complete naval power, mostly through his secondary buff line. So right over here, as an example, our island right over here has 1,286. So we wouldn't be close enough to getting this one per se, but for all intents and purposes, you would get an upkeep cost reduction and you get additional hit points with regards to your ships. It's very nice. In the long run, you definitely do want to be having one settlement devoted to Neptune. Let me just be very frank with you. But going over to the shipyard building itself, while those things are making, you'll notice that there are 6 total ships over here. You start off with being able to construct the pentaconters, or what they consider to be the civilian one and the legio one. I don't know if I'm saying legio or legio. I think both terms are correct. And the difference between these two is one of them is mostly for trade. The other one is military. That is correct. This is where you're going to get all of that. The mid-tier ones are the triremes, in which you'll have to research something in order to get them. And triremes come from the middle tab. Excuse me, that's the wrong place to go. You go over to research. You go from the civic tree, and they're right over here. But there's a ship that's larger than this one. And it's one that I more than likely will pronounce incorrectly. It's the quinquiremes. These ones are larger, the largest ship that you can potentially get right now. And ultimately, I would say, like, use these as your military vessels for the most part, because you can, you put different modules in them the most. But for this particular purpose, I want to work on building a civilian too. And you press this little gear button at the right of the picture. Do note that you can change the name of whatever you decide for this particular module ship, but let's take a look-see at what it has. So the first ones at the top here that have the sword icon are going to be any military type modules that you can put on. For this particular ship, even though we have gone ahead and picked the civilian one, we still can add 2 archer towers. It's totally fine. It kind of just turns into whatever the heck the military one was. You can go over here, because the military one starts off with a ship archer and a ship oars. But this one is not necessarily meant to be that way. If you want to protect your trade ship, you can go ahead and put one of these modules on. But if you want my honest opinion, when you take all these off, you'll have 3 slots for this ship to really put modules on it. So it'll always give you 1 or 2 slots available for cargo. That's always nice. If it's a straight on trade ship, my honest opinion is just give them the ship oarsmen. So even if they're going up against the wind, they'll be able to still push forward at a decent speed, right? Because look at that. It changes the speed in the minimum speed being 40 to 58 by doing that. Alternatively, if you want to be like mega super fast, you can also put the ship mast on the front, but do note that doesn't affect the minimum speed. What I'm looking for the most, it impacts the maximum speed. So this one is a big, like, if you want to, sure you can, but if not, I definitely recommend the oarsmen. Not so much to have the archers on it. But let's look at the maintenance cost itself. So 55 denarii is going to be going into this ship, along with 15 of the Libertas workforce. I like this design, and therefore I'm going to save it. And when you save it, that's when it's going to change from that little 3-person icon to a star, meaning that you've changed it. And then what are you going to do at this point? Well, you're just going to click it. It's going to have an initial upfront cost of 4,500 plus the resources to go into it. Now, there is an additional thing that I want to let you all know regarding the shipyards. As you notice, I went ahead and changed some of the stuff with, or I sifted through them, and I put ship oarsmen on this particular ship, right? But if I go ahead and build up a second shipyard right over here, and do note that these things have to be connected up via road, if I go to click this one, you notice that there's a difference. I don't have the star there anymore. And this is something I didn't know either. My wonderful community told me this recently. Just because you change the modules in one shipyard, it does not transfer over to the second. So if you were to go over here, you'll notice that the ship mast is there, but not the ship oars. Okay? So bear that in mind. If you're planning on having like specific type of ship design and you want to crank them out really freaking fast, you have to manually go here and change it. So if I want to get another ship out, I want to do this and save it, I have to do the exact same thing again. Alternatively, you can have one shipyard devoted to your civilian ships, and you can have one shipyard devoted to your military ships. So let's take a look-see at those. On this particular ship, I really want to be as effective as possible. So I want to have 2 archer towers, and the cool thing is you can see these pop up, right? But that maxes this out. So 1 ship oar and 2 ship archer towers are going to be on this trireme, and I can go and save it. But there's a difference here. It's going to be more expensive. You're going to have more of a workforce requirement because it's taking into account the archers that are there, and you're going to need a weapons upfront costs of 6 weapons. I haven't talked about the military stuff at all. I am planning on getting to that relatively soon, but at this point, getting the ships out there is pretty damn important. So that's why I'm going over this right now. So I'm going to save this, and now you'll see that this one has a start. But again, if you go over to here, it just has a sword, which means that is the default design, for example. But I want to get this one built too, so we're going to get that secondary ship ready to go over in here. While these two are working, I want to go over to the research tree, and I want to show you guys how to really navigate and get some additional ship-related items. So apart from this, getting the big boy ship, as I like to call it, past this point, the rest of the nautical type researches come from the left-hand side most of the military track, which again, I have not discussed, but I will go a little bit in depth right now. So past the nautical research, which is essentially what we have done, building one shipyard and generating at least 500 research points, you will start to get a decent amount of stuff. For example, plated hulls. This is going to increase the amount of hit points and the amount of damage that your ships can take, which does indeed work quite well with a ship like this that is meant to be your tank. You have tacking, so you can move faster, and then the wind speed, because obviously wind speeds do impact here, will be minus 20%, so that's going to help you. And then you get other types of modules like the shipboard scorpions, and then I believe this is the catapult carriers, which allows you to have catapults on your ships, which is really cool. If you want my honest opinion between these two, I much prefer the catapults than I do the scorpions, just because, let me see how I can describe this. So I used to play a lot of first-person shooter type games, and one of those, I don't even know whether it's considered first-person shooter. I guess it is. Overwatch was one of them. There is a concept known as a projectile character, in which, as an example, they would shoot an arrow and there would be a travel time. Okay, that travel time implicates a projectile. Okay, it's not meant to be a hit scan in which it'll immediately hit the target. That is what you would get with shipboard scorpions and carriers with these catapults. They will have a travel time, which implies that they are capable of missing a target. That's not meant to deter you. These are still very important to get later on for your ships, but do note that that is a thing that you can miss when you're attacking in this game. On the flip side, though, when you deal with ship archers, these guys are like literal death lasers. They will always, always, always somehow miraculously hit, because that is the game essentially telling you that you will still be able to be impactful, and even if they're like on the edge of the radius, if your archers fire, they're going to hit. So do note that ship archers, having them early on with a ship like this, just to either protect or, deter the pirate of the region, is still a very good idea. And the reason why we're getting these ships out here is because in the next video, we are planning on working on getting up to this island, which I already do have my flagship over here, and I'm going to go ahead and colonize this island right now, because we need to get the snail population for our togas, and also having additional lavender, resin, olives, some oyster population, and iron is never going to hurt anybody. And fun fact, these are the shipboard scorpions that you can see right over here. So we're going to wait until these ships are indeed made, and hopefully they'll be relatively fast. I'm going to do a little fast forward, and you know what? We'll do this a little bit differently. I'll just come back the moment that they're out. And there is our first ship. Oh, how it looks perfect. I mean, we do have one that's been ferrying some stuff across from one of our other islands, but we're also going to wait until this ship is ready to go, so it's another 3 minutes and 50 seconds. So, with our first transport ship, I want to go over here to our trade routes. And you see this guy? Well, there's a difference between this ship and our current one, which is right over here. It does not have any ship oars on it. It just has an additional mast, which is totally fine. But if you were to click on this thing, you'll notice that it's going completely against the wind speed or the wind flow right now until it's docking, and then it'll go back, right? So let me see if I can get this to go a little bit faster. Perfect. So its travel time from Capital Line all the way to our main island over here is going to be quite fast. But this ship is not going to suffer the condition too much, because the ship oars and you'll be able to hear them, are going to help us ensure that we're keeping at a good speed the whole time. It's perfect just like that. Again, the good thing with the modular ships is that you can mix and match however you so please. This goes 100% into your own playstyle. And later on, like, there are a lot of different things that you can do. Heck, you can, I know I have a fleet going right now of having like 6 or 7 of these big boy ships flanked with a couple of these triremes. And these guys are complete tanks. They have ship archers on them. They have scorpions. They have the catapults. They're just insane level ships. So ultimately, getting up to these guys is going to be great. They do also function very well as trade ships, but also let me show you something else here, which a lot of people are wondering, do you only have to keep the workforce from this particular island itself? And the answer is no. You do not only have to use the workforce from the island that they're made from. What you can do is you can click on the ship, and you see these 3 buttons at the bottom that says more commands when you highlight over them. And you have a couple options over here: patrol, escort, destroy, sell, and workforce. Workforce over here, if we were to click it, it'll show you your available islands. The only other island that we have a population on is Capitoline. So let's go over here and we see we have 21 of the Libertas workforce. We're still holding on to this ship right over here in the right hand corner. If we swap it from our main settlement of Ithaca to Capitoline, what's going to happen is the workforce is going to go down because it's swapped. This is a nice little way of having a little bit of balancing when it comes to your workforce allocation. If you're planning on building an army or a bunch of ships and you have a decent number of settlements with an okay-ish amount of people available, then you can do some swaps with these. Same thing goes if you're far past this guide when it's out to talk about the soldiers. You can do the exact same thing with them. But my workforce is the most over here on my main capital island, so I'm just going to keep it over here. And we're almost good to go with the second ship. And once it's out, we're going to talk about it really quick. And then we are going to finish out this guide for today. And it's always nice to see them just jet out here. There we go. So there's our next one. And as you can see, it has 2 of the ship archer towers plus the oarsman. This thing is a pretty damn good ship to have in your early to mid game because it's going to deal a lot of damage. It's pretty fast. It will be able to go up against the wind, mostly because of the ship force, and the archers are pretty much going to be death lasers. So if you're ever worried about, like, let's say that ship being a potential target for the raiders if you don't have the raiders on a passive state, what you can do is you can always take your military ships. I wouldn't advise with the flagship because that's kind of one that you want to use just for like colonizing other islands or maybe go into another region. But what you can do is when you have this particular military ship clicked, you can highlight and right click over the trade ship, and there's going to be a shield with 2 arrows. By doing that, it essentially changes the stance of this ship into an escort, and it will tell you right over there. And the way you can tell, again, is it will have that turquoise circle around that ship. So if I were to move the runaway nymph over here, this guy is now going to follow. And I don't have to care about it. I can just be like, yep, follow it and do what you need to do. Then I won't have to worry about this ship going down potentially. There is also a little hidden feature, which I don't think a lot of you guys know this exists, but this is kind of like a funny thing if in the event you want to give it a go. I'm going to fast forward it, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the guide if you just want to play around this game, because that's what it's for. You can do Control-Shift-R again. It wants to go down for me. There we go. Down to first person, and then you can run over to your ship. And again, similar to the aqueduct that you have it all highlighted, you'll be able to see that white grayish outline around your ship. If you left click, you'll be able to steer your ship yourself. But you won't be able to see Jack because there's a whole mast in your way. But nevertheless, it's a pretty cool feature. Hey, look, there's some worker whales over there in our other 2 ships. Alrighty, gang. So that is the basics of shipbuilding in this game. It is very, very simple. It's very fun. Once you get these things customized to your liking, you'll be able to make a whole bunch. And hopefully, your finances are always going to be in check. Do note that, we have gone ahead and upgraded our settlement a little bit over here. So that is something that you want to continuously do, as you're going to need more workforce allocation and obviously money to fund projects like this. So I do hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. It's always a pleasure to record these for you. If you guys have any questions, by all means, please leave them in the comment section. That is why it's there. And always, we maintain respect with each other and all that good stuff. Everyone has. I'm not concerned about that whatsoever. So until next time, thank you so much. Please consider like, comment, subscribing, hitting that bell button, sharing with your friends. And I'll catch you in the next guide, my Rantians.